Hey, welcome back YouTube. So today I'm going to talk about 10 great ways to reduce aggression in your fish tank. Now specifically I'm going to be talking about cichlids, but in general these methods can apply to basically any fish, except for a few unique ones. So let's get right into this. The first option is to increase the number of fish in the tank. Now this is more specific to cichlids, and the reason that this decreases aggression is very simple. When you have aggression, there's one fish bullying another fish, or multiple fish bullying another fish. When you have many fish, the fish can get confused and will not pick on a specific one, and rather than picking on one, they pick on many. And so all the bullying that happens is split up between many and greatly reduces the stress level of all the fish. So this is probably the best way to reduce aggression, and you get more fish. So what's wrong with that? Another way to reduce aggression is to get a larger tank. Now obviously not everyone can do this, but with a larger tank there's more space for fish to hide and to stay away from other fish, so there's less territorial issues. However, with some of the bigger fish, it doesn't really help. So when you have a bigger fish or a fish that just will not stop picking on another and is relentless, I definitely suggest isolating them. Now you could either use isolation tank, that works, or if you have one of the hang-on isolation boxes on the side of the tank, even if it's 8 inches long and 4 inches wide, you put the fish in there for a day or so, and then when you put him back in, he lost his dominant position in the hierarchy of the fish, and it'll take a few weeks for him to gather to become dominant again. And when he's dominant, then he'll be a bully again, but he won't really pick on him until then. The longer you keep the fish out, the longer it'll take for him to become a bully again. If you have an isolation tank, this works best. However, not many people can afford that or just want to have another tank. Another great option that many people do not know is to remove all decorations. So one of the biggest reasons that cichlids are very aggressive is because of their territory. They want to defend it, they want to have their own territory. That's what they do in the wild, and you could obviously see that in your tank. Now when you remove decorations, you remove all the things that the fish have to defend. That means that there's no territory and nothing that they need to defend, so they don't need to attack the other fish to keep them away. Now on the contrary, another great way, if you want to have decorations, another great way to reduce aggression is to add more decorations. And the reason is, with more decorations, there's more hiding places and more places for the fish to hide. However, there will be a lot of territory issues. So make sure you have a lot of hiding spaces and smaller areas so the smaller fish can get out of the way of the bigger ones. So tip number 6, if you have horrific aggression, limit the amount that the lights are on. When the lights are off, the fish can hide easier, and generally fish are more docile. Especially what I've found with cichlids. For example, when I'm breeding the fish and I see the male picking on all the females, I turn off the lights. They'll still breed, they'll still do whatever, but he's generally more docile and doesn't pick on them as much. Now tip number 7, feed more. Now this is only a specific case, or sometimes it won't help resolve the issue, but a lot of times when there's aggression, it's because the fish are hungry and fight for the food. When you feed more, there's more food to go around, they won't be as hungry, they won't be as aggressive, and it can resolve a lot of issues. However, this won't always work. And that also increases the amount of filtration and cleaning that you have to do, so there's a negative on that. Number 8 is to rearrange decorations. So you could take them away, you could add more, or you could rearrange them. Now this is a temporary solution because When you rearrange them, they'll have to reset their territories and reclaim them. However, after a few days or a week or so, they'll claim them again. So unless you want to constantly rearrange your decorations, I suggest adding more, taking them away. Number 9, slightly decrease the temperature. This is similar to feeding them a little bit more or having the lights off, but when you slightly decrease the temperature, they are slightly more docile, which can eventually lead to less aggression. However, there's a few negatives on the side. First of all, when it's a slightly less temperature, like a few degrees, like 2 or 3 degrees, the fish will be more docile, so it's not as fun to watch. And in addition to that, they might lose a little bit of color because they're reserving all their energy to stay warm. They try to, you'll also see them staying still because they want to reserve their energy because they don't really know what's going on. So, tip number 10, this is a great one, especially for African cichlids, and I'm sure it applies to many other fish as well. But if you are having aggression issues, remove all the females. Have a male-only tank or even a female-only tank. I don't know many people that have those because they're just not as fun to watch. But if you have a male-only tank, it goes back to them having nothing to defend or fight for. When there's a female in the tank, they're always fighting to breed. When there's none, they won't fight each other, they won't try to show off as much. They will still pick on each other, but they won't be trying to breed. So you don't need to worry about that. So these are just 10 great tips to reduce cichlid aggression or fish in general. If you have any other tips, leave them in the comments below so everyone can see them. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe for more.